Vidal is in Streatham, and you're through to Nigel Farage. Vidal, go ahead. Morning.
Morning, Nigel.
Good morning.
Morning. Considering that your family is from immigrant stock, how responsible do you think you are as a public figure and elected official in not stoking dangerous racial tensions? And I ask this off the back of many black and Asian businesses had to close their businesses early and send their staff home unpaid during the racial riots.
This is the summer riots, I think you referred to, Vidal.
Yeah. Well,
Nigel Farage.
Well, first thing, Vidal, thank you for giving me my lineage and background. I mean, if I am from immigrant stock, it's many centuries ago. But even if I was, that's really not the point, is it? You'll also notice, Vidal, that Reform got more votes from the BAME community, as they're known, than the Liberal Democrats. So we are making some quite big inroads into those communities.
To the summer riots, Mr. Farage. Polling by Savanta found 51% of the public find you personally responsible for the riots that were seen across much of England.
That is because, largely, of lies and incitement coming from Labour and Conservative politicians and broadcasters, some of whom work for this news channel. I asked a very simple question. Can we please be told the truth? That was all. Can we please be told the truth?
You also said some reports suggest he, the person responsible for these Taylor Swift dance class killings, was known to the security services.
No, I asked a question. Was he known to the security services? And do you know something?
Some reports suggest he was known to the
yes,
to quote you directly. Some reports suggest he wasn't. That's not a question.
So can you please tell us the truth? And do you know what? They still haven't told us the truth. What I thought vindicated me wholly was Jonathan Hall, KC, who is the czar for terrorism and rioting, backed up by Lord Carlisle, Liberal Democrat peer, both said that the government and police need to level with the public. And do you know something? If they'd levelled with the public, I don't think those riots would have been on anything like the scale they were. And we learnt, Vidal, it took a year after the triple murder in Nottingham for us to learn that Callaghan, the murderer, had been put on a list where a senior NHS doctor had said, if you let this man out, he will murder. We deserve to know the truth. And the idea that me asking for something which was backed up by the terrorism czar should somehow be twisted and turned into it being my fault is a total inversion of the truth.
We will move on, but you don't think you were stoking tensions at a very fraught time, Mr. Farage?
Had I been answered, those tensions would have disappeared because there was so much rubbish going about on the internet. But I still, by the way, would like to know the truth about who this man is.
Well, do you want to apologise for anything you said now?
No, I wish I'd...
the Farage riots by some people.
No, that was that moron.
They are called by some
That was that moron, O'Brien, that comes on this channel after you, and no wonder my security detail's as big as it is. It's because of people like him.
I have to ask you to expand on that.
Well, when you spread hatred and you spread lies, you anger a lot of people, and then their feelings against you become potentially violent.
How big is your security detail?
It's big, and it's changed a lot since quotes like that.
Morning, Mr. Farage. Pleasure to speak to you. And you have the ability to say more eloquently than many of us think. Also, you've tried many times to get into Parliament. For many people who failed, they just need to take some inspiration from your good self. However, the question, much as you can hear the admiration in my voice, why do you support Trump so much?
Oh, because I think the world is a safer place with Trump. I think his instincts on the big stuff are right. I do not believe for a moment that Kabul would now be controlled by the Taliban again. I don't believe for a moment that the Ukraine war would even have happened. And I think that peace through strength is a very important thing. And so I think in terms of let alone... Steve, let alone...
was put together by President Trump, carried out by Joe Biden, but put together through Trump and authorised by Trump.
There were only 3,000 American soldiers left in Afghanistan. There hadn't been an American soldier killed for 18 months. They weren't going to withdraw, all right?
He was lying?
He wanted to de-escalate, but they weren't going to withdraw the way that Biden did. Oh, and by the way, Biden did it without even referencing us, his NATO colleagues. So I believe... And Steve, also the Abraham Accords... I mean, look at what's happening now in the Middle East. The Abraham Accords were an amazing achievement. So I think on all of those levels, he was a very, very good thing for the world.
Let's get Steve back in. Steve, what would you say to Mr. Farage?
For hundreds of years, Afghanistan would never be occupied by anyone. The Russians tried it for a long, long time. Mr. Farage, explain the capital riots to me. Was Trump responsible?
I think it was very ill-judged to have that meeting there on the 6th of January. And even though he said and emphasised over and over again, not that you saw this on the news broadcasts, go in peace, some chose not to. So it was poor judgment to have people there on that
And a level
day.
of responsibility, as Steve asserts.
I think all of them, who were so keen to get that big demo, the very fact they held it led to what happened. Was it a deliberate planned coup? No.
All right. We heard recently from the President that he believes immigrants are eating people's cats and dogs in Ohio. Is he onto something?
Whenever he says something like this that sounds absolutely crackers, in the end, there always proves to be some truth in it.
You think Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs in Ohio?
I'll have a tenner with you that within the next month or so we find some evidence of it.
You're that convinced?
What the scale of it is, I've no idea.
But you do think some cats and dogs are being eaten
Nick,
in Springfield, Ohio?
I think Trump generally, when he says these things, is proved to be right.
The world has probably been fortunate that President Trump has yet to be taken out by two attempts. What would happen in the United States if he did? There's a level of toxicity. How would the country react?
Well, I don't want to think about it, really.
What did he say? I assume you've spoken to him since the golf club event in Florida.
I did ring him on Monday. I don't bombard him with phone calls. He's a busy guy. I just wanted to show some degree of friendship and support.
What was his mood?
Because, you see, the thing is, Nick, it's bad enough to be shot at a public event where the Secret Service clearly failed totally in their task. But his safe spaces are Mar-a-Lago and the golf club just down the road. Mm-hmm. That's where Trump spends time, with family, with friends. That's where he can relax, let his hair down and be him. That's his happy place. And the fact that it happened there, of all places, he's got to start thinking.
What was his mood, Mr. Farage?
He was, I would say he was putting a brave face on it. He said, I'm fine, it's no problem, don't worry about me, you've got your own problems on your side of the pond. Well, some truth in that, but not the same level, or we hope not, or the same degree. Putting a brave face on it, but just on a human level. Do you know, it's a funny thing. I was in that plane crash back in 2010, and a lot of people have said to me that I wasn't quite the same person for 6 or 9 months after that I had been before. And I did slightly feel in that debate that he did with Kamala Harris, it wasn't quite the same ebullient Trump. This stuff has to have an impact.
Can I move to your question, Mohammed?
Certainly, yeah.
Thank
Do
you,
you
sir.
have a view on Mr. Huw Edwards not going to prison?
Well, it does seem rather odd that you can go to prison for calling someone a paedophile online, but not for being one. And that sort of double standard is how it looks to most people. And I think one of the problems that we've got, Mohammed, is whether it's policing, the way different groups are policed in different ways, whether it's the judicial system. I think there is a strong view that a two-tier approach is emerging. Two-tier care, people start to talk about.
Do you buy that?
Yes, I do to some extent, actually. Yes, I do. I think particularly the way different groups are policed, I'm concerned that there is a double standard in operation. I don't like it because I want the public to trust the police and I want the public to trust the judicial system. So it's a fair question, Mohammed. I think most people will say, well, how can it be that somebody saying something unpleasant on Facebook can get 2.5 years in prison, and yet others in that circle with Huw Edwards get nothing?